Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting, Guadalupe City Council, March 25th. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Eugene Acosta,
Here.
Councilmember Whitney Vernez. Here. Councilmember Amelia Villegas.
Here.
Councilmember Christina Hernandez.
Here.
Mayor Julian.
Here. We have a quorum. If you will, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Again. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is a moment of silence. Thanks, appreciation. Is there anyone that wishes to address that? Dean, Christina, you good? Good? We're good. We'll move to item 4 with the agenda review. At this time, we'll look at the order of business here. Is there a council member that wishes to change the order of business? None? All right, next item is community participation. This item is for anything that's not on the agenda. If there's anybody that wishes to speak that on an item that's not on agenda, please come forward. Don't see anyone. So the next item is a ceremonial calendar, oath of office, Mr. Luis Ramos, firefighter. Will Chief and okay. By the way, family and everybody else can come up to take pictures if they would like, so don't be shy. Yeah, really go. We better go over there. Please come up. Don't feel bad. Come on up. Come on in.
Officers and employees. I, Luis Ramos Jr. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation
without mental reservation
without
or purpose of evasion, that I will well and faithfully
well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which
discharge duties upon which
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Good job.
All right.
First, I want to thank God for the opportunity to serve in this new role as a firefighter with the City of Guadalupe Fire Department. Thank you, City Council and Public Safety Director Chief Cash, for this opportunity. As I've mentioned before, being born and raised in the City of Guadalupe, this is a true honor. A few weeks ago, we had the privilege of reading to first graders at Marybridge Elementary School, and it really was a surreal moment because about 19 years ago, I was a first grader in that same classroom. So I look forward to being the best firefighter I can for the city. Thank you to my family and friends in the fire service that have been mentors, the Guadalupe Fire Department, my parents, fiance, my grandma for all the support. And I look forward to serving the city.
All right.
Thank you.
Give it a stand up. Take all the pictures you want. Take pictures. You want? Okay. Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, moving right along. The next item is item 7, consent calendar. Is the following items are presented for council approval without discussion as a single agenda item. Is there a council member that wishes to pull one of the items A, B, C, or D out for further discussion?
I'd like to pull B, the warrants.
B? Anybody else? Any public wishes to request to pull an item? Do we know of? None? Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve the balance A, C, and D?
I motion to approve on the warrants, on the consent A. A, C, and D.
There you go. Is there a second? Okay, okay. She got it, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All ayes. Item B, Ms. Villegas.
Yeah, actually, these are questions for Chief. I'll wait till he sits down.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you have these on page 3 of the warrants. There's $15,000 for radar for PD vehicles. Are these upgraded radars or we didn't have radars before?
These are upgraded, and part of that should have been from a grant.
Okay. And then what is jump and carry? There's a cost of $133, and it's the description is jump and carry.
Oh, yes. Jumper, it's not jumper cables, but it's a battery operated jumper that the officer can carry in the field.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we do a lot of those.
One last question. Purchase of a 2024 Chevy Traverse.
Correct.
Is that in addition to the current fleet, or one was retired or whatever, and this is a replacement?
That is going to be a replacement. Yes.
So one will be retired?
Yes.
We good? Okay, is there a motion to approve item B, approve payment warrants of period ending March 14th, 2025?
I make a motion to approve payments of warrant period ending March 14, 2025.
There's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All ayes, cool. All right, next item is management reports. Item 8, city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor,
Commissioner.
Council, staff, and public. I'll just mention that the city applied for a state historic tax credit grant for 1 million, and we didn't get it. So we feel bad about that. We did our best. We didn't get that grant. Also, we didn't get one for, it was a $2 million grant for the fiscal year 2025 for the senior center. That was rejected. However, we just applied for a senior center revitalization project grant for 500,000 for the senior center, and also the automated metering infrastructure earmark for 500,000. And I'll also mention that the master fee schedule, we have our new recreation services manager here, and we're looking at bringing that back again because there's some confusing things within the facility fees. So expect that coming back at some point. Other than that, that's all I have for my report. Oh, I'm getting easy, yeah. Keeping it short. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. since my office is somewhat fluid and information and items that are going on, I did not submit a report. But the only things is the Basque House, which had the graffiti. I hope everyone can see that that has been cleaned up. And I spoke with the one of the owners last week and this morning. And so we're working to get a meeting together to look at some kind of finalization. We discussed either they're going to take care of it or we'll go through the entire code compliance. And he seems very much agreeable. It's just some of the other members of the family, but we will be discussing that. Also, what Todd talked about on the master fee, we're now in limbo. We're holding off on the concealed weapons carry permit. We're seeing where other cities that responsibility has been shifted. It used to be the sheriff's department, but now they shifted that to local government. So police chiefs are now doing that. And we were charging extremely low fees compared to all the other cities around us. So we're reevaluating that, and we're going to be hopefully be able to present that for a change with the master fees. So bottom line is that we will make sure that we recoup all our costs because we weren't with the previous fee schedule. The only other thing too, had Marion Hospital. We looked at, they're trying to open up for some specialties, but they're getting competition from Cottage, which was very interesting, but I'm trying to see how that's going to impact Guadalupe as far as services. Then also last week and tomorrow, I'm with the probation, sheriffs, and department. We're trying to decide on disbursement of $21 million. There was such a hiccup on the last one because I kind of asked how much funds is going to Guad, and that's not on the agenda. So we've had some delays, best way to kind of say it. And just met today with and SLO with the New Life Canine program. They're asking for me to assist in some of the fundraising, and only thing I pretty much is anything that I do and make sure that Guad is highlighted and we're receiving some kind of fair compensation for the work that's being done. Other than that, that is my report. Yes, we have it on our website currently. So all the guidelines, especially since the Supreme Court struck down, there was one where the entities were able to deny a permit based on as far as the person's just cause. Yes, that was the ones that at least law enforcement pretty much used when there were individuals that maybe had not broken the law, but they were problematic. And so now that has been struck down. So almost anyone can get one, but our fees were very low. And so we had a few people that came and we kind of told them that we're going to put this on hold because we saw what Santa Maria is doing and what Santa Barbara and what the sheriff is charging. And we want to make sure that we're being at least the same or just below whatever they're charging so that we can cover all our costs because we weren't at first. Some of these things are mandated background, psychological, and those are coming out of our pocket as far as the city. And so we're going to reevaluate that. So like I said before, that we get all our cost recovery back.
And in your experience with the county, because the county, I assume, talks to you when there's somebody that requests a permit from the county, or do they? In
No.
the past, they never consulted with you in terms of your experience in town with the.
In the past, it usually worked that, or I should say right now, I have jurisdiction for the city of Guadalupe if someone wants a permit.
Right.
Anything outside, in Santa Maria or the county, that goes to them. In the past, the sheriff, if someone wanted a permit, it went straight to the sheriffs, and at times we would never have any kind of input into that.
So we don't
But-
know who's carrying. I don't know
Uh,
if it's a requirement that it's not published or it's published or,
It is not published that I'm aware of, unless Phil knows something I'm not aware of.
I think you can get the names maybe, but I don't know if I'm pretty sure you can't get the address of the person. That would be confidential. But I believe I just glanced at today in the Public Records Act. I can get back to you before the end of the meeting if you want an answer. Yeah, it's not, it just concerns me that everybody has guns, it seems, and to carry, is just really, you have to watch what you're saying to people, I guess. I just wanted to comment on our experiences of February, and it's very low in terms of incidents and arrests and things like that, which is good. So it's nice to see that. So is that it, Chief, or is it?
That is my report.
Any
and
questions?
Thank you.
I have a question in regards to that concealed weapon. Is there a lot of interest and were there any approved under that low price range?
Yes, we have a file, and I think at this time we have 3, and we denied 1. So yeah, so we have that, and then if they want another permit, they have to come back in 2 years. So we're trying to get our paperwork set before that time period. They come back so that they pay the appropriate fees.
And when did this change go into effect?
As far as the authorization coming to
Mhm.
town, I believe it was about 2 years. Larry, do you remember? Yes.
So
about-
you guys have
about 2
been
years ago.
approving this for 2 years?
Yes, so we don't publicize it. I'll be honest with you. We prefer only the cops have guns, but that's a different story. But we don't publicize. So if, people want, we put that on our webpage so they can see all the information, what the requirements are and so forth.
Thank you.
I don't know, maybe if you have information, we were talking about 2 fires recently. Are you familiar with those 2 fires? I think there's one in
Pagaline.
Pagaline
Haggling,
and the one on
12th
12th Street.
Street.
Do
Yes.
you- do you have any update on that or?
The one on Pagaline, we just got a request for records that our city attorney just reviewed that we'll be sending to the insurance investigator. It was a fire, and I can speak to that one. They had candles outside the house. And it caught onto the curtains, and then next thing you know, went to the house. So the house is a total because they had to shoot water inside and tear down the ceiling. So that's going to be costly. No injuries and so forth, but we had a response from CAL FIRE and Santa Barbara County and also Santa Maria. So it was a big response. And the one on 12th, I believe, was a shed. And that kind of goes to the point that we've been discussing with fire and police about cross training. One of our police officers who happened to come from another department where they had fire training, he was the first one on scene and broke out the hoses and the water. And so his assistants help to really keep that under control. So we're now discussing, POA president was back there.
Yeah.
And we had discussion with him about looking at that as some additional training on both so that we're better prepared as a city.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed most of our calls for service from the fire department are medical and,
Yes.
okay, which is good. Any further questions? Okay, we'll go to item 10, Measure A, local program of projects. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Today we are going to approve the Measure A local program of projects. When Measure A was first approved or adopted, one of the stipulations was that we had to have public records available and we had to show how the agencies were expending the money. The program of projects is updated every year and we bring it before the city council to approve this by resolution. And it outlines how we intend to spend the Measure A funds over the next 5-year period. And next year will come and it'll be the following 5 years. So this has to be done in a public hearing setting. So this will be brought to you and this will be a public hearing item. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have regarding how the money might be expended. As you'll see a lot of the money that comes in from Measure A actually goes towards maintenance and of our system. It helps pay for staff. A smaller portion goes to actual paving. The largest amount of money that goes towards paving is from the gas tax.
You mentioned public hearing. I don't see that this won't suffice as a public hearing, or?
I don't think it requires that kind of public hearing.
Okay,
So
just air it in public, okay.
just a hearing in public, yeah.
Okay. Well, it goes through quite a few committees in terms of where the money has to be spent and how it's spent. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Any questions of Jeff? Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2025-18?
A motion to adopt resolution 2025-18.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comments? All those in roll call, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Acosta Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Fernez, Councilmember Villegas,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez, Mayor Julian.
Aye. Resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Item number 12, direction to staff on circulation of draft initial study, negative declaration and acceptance of draft housing element. Larry.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr.
or
Mayor,
Doctor. Yeah.
council members.
Okay.
After a 2+ year process, I'm pleased to announce that this will be the second to the last hearing on the draft housing element. With the expert work by our consultant, Dr. Nuorso, we have prepared an original draft and then responded 5 times to comments from the staff of the Housing and Community Development Department. Finally, our version 6 was accepted by the state on March 7th. The letter is included in your packet this evening. Their letter states that our draft meets the statutory requirements and will substantially comply with state housing element law. I've been involved with housing elements since 1982. And in the past cycles, at the end of the process, the local agency had the ability to make findings if there were issues that they didn't agree with the state office on that. And so when you would send back your final draft to the state, you could have a resolution with findings and say, we just don't agree to, these last couple items or whatever it was. And the housing element would be adopted with that resolution. And it wouldn't require any further work. Unfortunately, the final adoption, the process is no longer available to us. The state law changed a couple years ago, and now you basically have to agree to everything that the state is asking you. So they write a nice letter and it sounds, could you please do this? Could you please do that stuff? But basically you don't have a choice. And so we worked, both the professor and I worked really hard trying to keep the changes to a minimum. But like I said, this is our 6th version now that you have. A month ago tonight, you were given a cover memo and then that last draft to give you an idea of what we're looking at for the possibility of adopting. And tonight, the professor will provide a summary of the changes to the document from when you reviewed it about a year ago. And then after that, we'll discuss the next steps. So at this point, I'd like to invite the professor up to make his presentation.
Please. Good evening, Doctor.
Welcome. Yeah. It's on. Okay. Yeah, I know when I came in, I shook hands with a few people. But I would like to say good evening to everybody.
Good evening, Doctor.
It's my pleasure to be here. And I am excited that we are getting to the end of this process. So what is on the agenda for today? I would like to just briefly recap what we discussed the previous meeting nearly a year ago. And then after that, I will outline the additional requirements that the state laws imposed on housing that we have to double check. And then finally, we'll outline the next steps. Next. So, I mean, you've heard it, you've seen it in your preparation, but it's the state's law. The state law mandates that we do this. Larry just reiterated it, so I will not belabor that further. I would like to go to the next slide. What is this project? It's what the state is calling the sixth cycle housing element. Sixth cycle, because the state decides that for the next 5, 7, 8 years, everybody needs to do a new housing element. Then they go through a process of review for everybody. And since they started that, this is the sixth cycle. Okay, that's why we call it that. And it went through multiple public reviews. And in April 2024, we had an approved document, submitted it to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, which I'll always say HCDE from now on, for review and comment. After a few rounds back and forth, the revised draft, what you have now is the approved element, still waiting for certification. Meanwhile, we've also prepared an initial study for the housing element, the project housing element. It was based on the CEQA documentation for the new general plan, the 2042 general plan. That initial study evaluates environmental impacts expected to result from adoption of the sixth cycle housing element. So these were the two items we discussed at the last meeting. And very quickly, next slide. Nearly a year ago, we made a point. That was a much longer presentation that I'll give tonight. We made a point that the state made such numerous changes since the fifth cycle, the last cycle, that it required extensive updates. The types of changes we were able to group into two. Those that affect the production of housing and those that are meant to relax governmental constraints on the production of a variety of housing types. For the laws that were new or modified for production of housing, there were 11 of them. We went through them. I even, in your handout, at the very end, I won't go through them. I still have the list of the 11 laws there. And those that are to remove governmental or relax governmental constraints, there were 8 new or modified laws. Okay. Many of the changes are kind of similar to what you went through the past year or so, and when you had to change the municipal code to conform with state law on accessory dwelling units. Okay, it's going to be a similar type of things. Once we've finished going through the process, you have to go through many of those to make sure that the city is conforming to all the new regulations. So that's what we discussed. Next slide. Now I'll go over the additional requirements that we've been working on for the past year with HCD. The first had to do with assuring the continuing affordability of housing units that are under deed restrictions, like housing at Point Sal Dunes, the Guadalupe Courts, those types of housing. You have to make sure that there are mechanisms in place so that they do not convert to market rate. The particular housing, the various housing developments in Guadalupe that fall under that, you can see under table 2-32 in the report. The second requirement has to do with affordability to various income groups. Not just all projects, but the pipeline projects. So every cycle, your region gets together and then they say, this is how much housing we need, and they allocate, right? The regional housing need allocation, RHNA. And as part of that, the housing is divided into, how many should be affordable to low, middle, upper income, and all that. Okay, that's what we are talking about. But this one has to do with, so the projects that we identified in the housing element that are all pipeline. Guadalupe, you have been doing so well. All your projects, they are not like pie in the sky. They are already ongoing, okay? And we had to show that how much of these projects are available to various income groups. That was, one of the things we had to deal with. And we are talking about, such projects as Escalante Meadows, the various Alvarez projects, the Pasadera, or everything that is coming along. They say, not just the numbers, we want to know how many will be accessible to, how many will be affordable to low, middle, upper, and so on. Okay, so that was the affordability. The third requirement was guarantee reasonable accommodation of special needs groups in all residential districts. So you see writing about that in section 4.1.1.3. The fourth is to drop the 2-story restriction in your municipal code. HCD wanted the city to commit to that in the housing element, that you are going to drop that and you allow 3-story structures within your 35-foot height limit. That's already in the code. So, and those you can do in your R1, R2, R3 districts. So the writing about that you find in section 4.1.1.5.3. That's why I put all those things in parentheses in your handouts if you want to here for verification. The fifth item is assuring that the city's complies with the latest changes to the law on accessory dwelling units. I mean, that one seems to change every other day, you know. Larry can explain to you, because the fact of the matter is, if accessory dwelling units are really built, you only need a small fraction of all housing to build one, and then you meet the deficit. Okay, but we'll see what happens. The fifth change was affirmatively furthering fair housing through fair housing enforcement. So section 7.3.1.2, we had to deal with that. And also affirmatively furthering fair housing through community development projects. My dismay when I realized now we are doing a community plan of projects that don't even have anything necessarily to do with housing. But that's what the state wanted now. So we had to go through, including things like flood control along the bridge and work over Santa Maria River. That's supposed to be all promote fair housing. Transit hub at Amtrak station, revitalization of Central Park and Leroy Park, curbing emissions from agriculture, improvements to civic amenities like the historic Royal Theater and the basketball court at City Hall, and other projects in the capital improvement program. So essentially, the housing element has become quite large now. It's not only housing anymore. Community development is a big part of it. Okay, so fortunately, everything I mentioned, those are projects you already have, and we are able to document that you have all these which, when completed, can further fair housing. So all this led to modification or additions to several housing programs and the text in the report. And I listed them all there at the bottom. So now let's look at the final set of funding. So the next slide, the final set of findings. So this is a snip of the kind of letter we've been going back and forth with HCD over the past year. And this top snip is saying that we've got, I hope it works. It doesn't seem to work, eh?
It just looked like it this one. Yeah, oh. What do you want them to point out?
No, I just wanted to just this first one. So basically, it's saying the City of Guadalupe preliminary review received. It says January 14, 2025, right? It's informal because it's something we'll be going back and forth with them, over. A formal one is when you make a formal submission and then they give you, the kind of letter. So that is it. And it even have dates there. They did prior reviews on 6/28, on 11/19, and so on. Okay, then we send this last one on, they sent it on February 4th. So I'll just look at the main heading there. It say affirmatively furthering fair housing. Okay, and then when you look, it says page prior informal preliminary review, what they said, yes or no, and then now the new review, yes. So I just want to show you that now everything they were asking for, our latest one says yes for everything. Okay, so we have now satisfied their expectations for affirmatively furthering fair housing. So now we can move fast. On the next one, the topic is the inventory of sites and whether you have adequate sites. So we have met the expectations. You can see the last column will say yes, yes, yes. We have met the expectations that we have enough site or space to meet the RENA. And in fact, XCD approved the site inventory nearly a year ago. The next one on zoning for a variety of housing types. Yes, we have now made the expectation in making provisions for a variety of housing types, including emergency shelters and employee housing. The next one on governmental constraints, everything is yes in the last column. And I even have to the right which programs or sections that we have made changes to address all of those so that people can verify. So these were the final holdouts which we have satisfied to obtain HCD's initial approval, which Larry read, that the element will meet the statutory requirements and it will substantially comply with state housing element law when it is adopted by council, submitted, and approved by HCD. That final approval by HCD of the full document is what they are calling the certification of the housing element. And so that is all I wanted to share with you as far as the housing element. For the CEQA documentation, the last meeting, hearing nearly a year ago, we also reported that that first draft, which went into under CEQA investigation, the initial study, we found that the proposed project would not have significant effect on the environment, and therefore a negative declaration was recommended. Because we base it on the CEQA documentation for the general plan, and the general plan already recognizes all the housing that appears now in the housing element. In fact, the general plan looks even beyond just the 8 years as far as housing. So there will be no problem. If the general plan document doesn't see a problem, then this one also, since we have not made any changes beyond, we were only trying to comply with laws, but not changing location of housing and all that type of thing, it was not going to have any significant environmental impact. Next steps. Do you want me to explain it? Do you want to? We have a slide on it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Thank you all very much. You're welcome.
So we wanted to come back to you just to make sure you're still in the loop for each of these changes. And the next step that we would like to take would be to get direction from you to go ahead and circulate the initial study /ND. That's a 30-day process. Have to send it up through the state and then also to the local agencies and stuff that we initially notified of when we were starting the housing element. So we get a wide distribution of people looking at that document, and then bring it back to council and ask for you to adopt the final negative declaration, as well as the adopt the housing element. And then I'd prepare a letter that would include the resolution from that, and we'd send that to the state, and then probably wait a month or so and then get our final letter from them. So that's the direction we're trying to go for this evening. So we're both available if you have any questions. Or Todd.
I have a question, if you don't mind. We approved the general plan update, and it has, 13 different elements, and this of course is another element within it. Is it typical for cities to approve the general plan update and then approve the housing element? That is its own sort of separate entity in my mind.
Yeah, it's usually the hardest one to write. And so in most cases, I mean, every place I've worked, we've always done the housing element separate from that.
And our update goes to 2042. This is for 8 years. So it'll have to be looked at in another 8 years from now once
Or
It's all said.
7, yeah.
7.
Yeah, because now it's the sixth cycle is 2023 to
Right.
2031. So we've used 2 years in the
I'm sorry
process
if I'm
already.
asking a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
So we're good
Um,
until 2031.
And there's some mention about the community development component to the housing part of it. When the general plan updates approved, it has the community development components within it. But yet now there's something even beyond just for the housing part of it, which is interesting.
Yep.
And but I'm glad we're meeting seems like we're meeting the regional housing need allocations,
Mhm.
which is really cool.
We did
'Cause most
really well
cities aren't.
last time.
Most
We-
cities aren't.
We only had 51 units that needed to be included with the last cycle. This cycle is 431. And when the general plan was updated, they made it really clear in there that we were going to be meeting that and exceeding it considerably. So we're doing really well for a small community.
And I'm gonna ask a dumb question. 3 stories, 35 feet. So are we talking that when it was 2 stories, is it higher ceilings? Or is it just we can fit 3 stories within 35-foot cap?
That will have to be the way that it gets designed. But we always have a safety issue involved, and that's that the fire department has the ability to say what they need to be able to make it a full 3 stories. We have that over on I can't think of the name of the street. No. It's the one that was the H2A housing that went up 3
Pioneer
stories.
Street?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Pioneer Street, thank you. Those 2 buildings, they went 3 stories, but they had to do special things to meet fire department conditions for that. So that would be what happens now with this new element when it gets certified. We just have to be available, and if developers come in and say they want to go 3 stories, we'll work with them and see if we can make it safe. But if it can't be safely done, then in that particular location, then we don't have to approve it.
And I believe,
Right.
I believe the 35-foot restriction is because of the equipment that are fired.
Right.
The limitations on the equipment that are fired. Wow. So.
I'm going to open it to public hearing. Okay, at 6:46, we'll open up to the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address this via in person or online? Hearing very little from the public we'll close it at 6:47, the public hearing. I had a question, and I was talking to Larry earlier that this document is very detailed in terms of what is that yours? I mean. Okay. It's very detailed in terms of the specifics, talking about race, talking about female head of households, talking about family size, talking about everything, circulation, just everything. And if people that are writing grants were to look at this, they wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel because it's very well put together document for the 11th time that you've dealt with it. I had a question that the ADUs, the possibility of 600 ADUs in the community of Guadalupe because of the requirement now that you can actually place an ADU behind you, a small, junior or major ADU. And I think what we have now is about 100 and something ADUs.
It's in that range.
Yeah, in the pipeline. So, and it's because of law. So we just, people may complain about the parking and the lack of parking, but we can't do much about that. And I know a lot of cities are complaining about that, but you look at what we have here meeting our RENA requirements, where, one of the things is that you have housing close to where you're employed. And most of the people are about 70-80% of the people are employed. Well, maybe not that high, but a good portion of them are employed in agriculture. So that's why we have such a large community of farm workers here because of that. And that's good. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor, I did have one comment on the ADUs. There still is a provision in there that basically says if you don't have the services, then you don't have to approve. That's really the only
Okay,
only reason we can do it. And so I don't know if Public Works has done any updates on our service availability and how many additional units we can serve with the existing size of our water plant or the sewage
Right.
treatment plant, that sort of thing. But that will factor in at some
Limiting-
point
it's limiting
before we
factor.
get to 600 units, I think.
well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
And we approved 45 ADUs this last year. I'm working on the annual housing report for the state, and we had 2 apartment complexes, and then no single family and all ADUs. And so it was like 45 of those and maybe 8 units of apartments.
I know Lupa's Apartments
Yeah.
on 11th Street has 2 ADUs
Mhm.
plus 20 apartments, so that's providing a lot of space, for a lot of homes or apartments, living quarters for people, so.
Yeah.
So you need from us to accept the revisions. Is there a formal motion? I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
It's a quick question. And
Okay,
I think Todd asked a question after me.
okay.
and then that'll be it. Fine.
No,
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Cornelius and Larry, for this presentation. Always engaging, and actually look forward to this, even though it's a wealth of information. I am looking at the map for the flood zones. And I do see that there is no plan for new development in or near the flood zones. I was just curious in regards to one of the maps presented. Seeing the flooded areas, when does this ever get updated? Just because I feel like there might be some flooded areas that have been flooded before and not on this.
We use firm maps, flooded something rate map, FIRMA, I think, done by the feds. And so when they update, then we get a new set of maps. I think Public Works probably has have you seen a set of FIRMA maps in your office yet? Okay. Well, the professor took what was the most recent delineation of the floodplain, and that's what we could put in this. But if there are updates, obviously we can update the document before 2031.
Okay, thank you. I just remember when that flooding occurred, there was lots of concerns, and just want to make sure we plan forward and in regards to mitigation.
You know, in relation to that, when there was that flood there, that area was not considered a flood zone.
Right.
Yeah. And it's flooded several times, so, but the feds have to do that.
Mhm.
FEMA has to do that. So do we need a formal adoption of, okay, Todd, okay.
Well, I'm
Okay.
just curious, one more question, so the document gets approved, it's solidified for 8 years, but there's obviously going to be several law changes within the next 8 years. How does that play into the lock-in of this agreement or not, or do you have to come back and amend it?
It
that make
depends
sense?
on the type of
Okay,
change.
okay.
ADU law, as we mentioned, changes multiple times a year,
Mhm.
and we do like a once a year cleanup and pick up all the bills and do that. If there's something similar to that for the housing element, then I'm sure we would have to do that as well. I don't know. The attorney has any
I think doctor
bright ideas on that one? Okay.
asking too many questions.
No, that's all right.
So I think if I understood your question correctly, you're asking whether we are bound by what the new housing element, approved housing element says we need to do, right? So one of the aspects of any new housing element is to go back and say everything you said in the previous housing element, how much of that you have achieved, and explain, if you have not achieved and why. Okay. And now the new rules don't allow you to roll over, especially any new housing that you are going to build in the previous element as one of the new, housing for the new element. They want you to distinctly show that you are still going to meet those and meet whatever is your new allocation. I thought that's probably where your question was going. Yeah, so each time we are going to do a review, we are going to say, but in the case of Guadalupe, you are already building whatever is allocated to you. It's not like you are waiting for somebody to come out with a proposal. So yeah, so you are ahead of the game.
Thank you.
And can I make one
Please,
comment?
yes.
One of the benefits of the certification is that then you can apply for planning grants, like Mayor was
Right.
saying. A lot of the material you can use from this document, automatically you can apply for planning grants. Okay, and that's a good thing.
I think the carrot was by the state is if you don't do this, you're not going to be able to get grants. Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
So I think we're
Okay.
there. We're ready to go with that. So Phil, did we need a motion on this or? Yeah, motion to accept the revisions and direct staff to circulate the negative declaration. It's in the recommendation numbers 3 and 4. Those two actions are required. You saying C and D or 3 and 4? 3 and 4 in the recommendations. Oh, okay. Under the executive summary. All right. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any public comments via web or anything else? None? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All ayes. Great report. Great update. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very
Larry.
much for going along with this for these 2 years. It's been a long process.
We're way ahead of a lot of folks.
Yeah.
When it comes to housing, when it comes to, if people need to look at the document that's provided, it'll really give you a lot of data about Guadalupe and where we're going and where we have been. So
Yeah.
very good information.
Thanks again.
All right. Any further questions for Larry or Doctor? If not, future agenda items. Nobody?
I got one for unscheduled because I'm not sure when it'll come back, but the adoption of the negative declaration
Right.
and adoption of the final housing element. 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so unscheduled, I guess, till we plug it in there.
Okay, do you have other staff here? You have David, you have Tara, you have Janice, you want to share anything with us? Or are you good? Good. Okay, good. All right, council activity reports. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I just threw it out there.
I just want to say at our last meeting when we were here, the food bank that the school district did, they did about 200 bags and they had about 250 families. So this next one they do, they're gonna up it. So they have enough. But yeah, they did pretty good. Well, they did it. They had 200, so that was good.
What they have there today? It wasn't the food bank, was it? There's a lot of cars at McKenzie.
Oh, today, a soccer game.
Oh,
Yeah, so
wow.
you got
Okay.
soccer going and then wrestling is starting up also.
Okay,
Yeah, normally our former council member Gilbert Robles would
yeah, he's in the middle
give
of the
us on
game,
it,
right?
yeah. But yeah,
By the way, Food Bank of Santa Barbara County was reduced USDA funding by about 1.23 million, which is about 10% of their budget. And mainly that hit what the program was that they would contract with local farmers to buy produce to actually distribute to food banks. So that's about 400,000 that's going to be eliminated from that side of things. So anyway, the food bank's still going strong. So we'll just hopefully we'll get by with any reductions that they have from the USDA side of things. So no missiles? No missile? Okay.
This past month, I participated in the Community School Advisory Meeting and the Immigration Forum. I also, alongside Emily, was able to host a forum in honor of Women's Month. It was a great event. We had a small but mighty group. 2 youth were our keynote speakers, and they were very inspiring. And it seems like the group wants to host another event. So looking forward to hosting another one this year. One of our keynote speakers was Primavera. She was our Kiwanis princess for Guadalupe, and she just wanted to share that the 2025 Elks Rodeo Queen campaign is going. Last year, she was able to raise $60,000, and all that funding went back to programs here in Guadalupe. So if you guys are able to, please feel free to support. Thank you.
On that note, did they go by and talk with you, Tara? The Kiwanis? Okay, cool. I boycotted the last time. I bought a ticket, but they had it in Santa Maria, so we want to have it.
It was
we wanna
nice.
Have it here. Anything else? We had SBCAG and APCD, Santa Barbara Council of Governments and Air Pollution Control District this past Thursday. And one of the key elements for the APCD, the Air Pollution Control District, is there's a program called the Blue Whales, Blue Skies. And on April the 16th, they're actually acknowledging these companies that have the big freighters to where they reduce their speeds going through the channel along the coast to 10 knots, 10 miles an hour, basically. And what that does, there's three things that it does. One, it reduces pollution, because the faster you go, the more diesel or the smoke in the area in California. And then also whale strikes. If there's been a lot of whale strikes because of the speed, the whales can't get away from, how many million-ton barge going through that. So that's reducing whale strikes, and also the noise that's created by the props that really creates issues with the environment. So they're being awarded. These big companies are being awarded by the state of California to acknowledging that they're participating in the Blue Whales, Blue Skies. If you have time, look it up. Blue Whales, Blue Skies. We don't see the boats or the freighters going through here, but you see them through the Channel Islands. So it makes a big difference to the air pollution and the whales. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry, Phil.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to answer your question. Oh,
Okay.
I'll let the council member go first.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to mention that I also went to the immigration forum, the training that Christina went to.
All right.
Very well received, large group. And there was a senior attorney that was there who gave very good, kind of basic information that the people needed. The more interesting part of the 2-hour session, actually it ran a little over 2 hours, was the last half hour, the Q&As, where people want to know specifically what happens if someone comes to my door, what happens if, et cetera, et cetera. So that was very enlightening for me. And I also attended the Sunday Women's History Month event. You didn't mention that in addition to the 2 youths that were there was the mental health therapist or counselor, therapist, yeah. And she gave tips and hints on how to reduce stress, which was very good.
Good.
Anytime.
Phil.
Oh, yeah, I just want to answer your question about the Public Records Act and the concealed weapon permit. I was a little confused. I was going from my memory. The Public Records Act exempts the home address and telephone number of prosecutors, public defenders, peace officers, judges, court commissioners, and magistrates, but everyone else is subject to disclosure, their addresses and their names, telephone numbers. Unless they can make a showing that their home would be a place where they're vulnerable to attack, which I think in some cases, some people probably could. But that is intended to cover, like if you are a merchant or something, or you carry money with you to the bank from your business, and that's when you're vulnerable, you wouldn't release that information from an application. That would be something, that's a reason why somebody would request a CCW permit, because they're vulnerable in certain places. That information is not disclosable, and also the applicant's medical or psychological history. But otherwise, you can get a list of names and addresses of CCW permit holders.
Okay. Any more comments from the council, staff? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
One motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All ayes. Thank you all.